Indie means independent, and you can't get more independent than a two-person film shot in a house. A Homemade Film is a 2022 low-budget feature film written and directed by Andrew Power. Synopsis. Recent events cause a young couple to reflect on the problems they've faced in the past few months. So as I said, this was made by a two-person crew during lockdown, and that to me, I was expecting the sort of, what's becoming the sort of folk filmmaking aesthetic of big wide shots, lav mics, very naturalistic dialogue, but what I got here was something very different. This is the sort of film that would have been described as studenty like 10 to 15 years ago, when film schools and unis were more focused on art. Now if someone says something studenty, they just mean it's got bad sound, because those sort of institutions are just cranking out grunts for the industry. You know, there's no room there anymore for nurturing unique voices. They're completely commercial havens for technophiles who think that the perfect lighting setup is the only thing between them and world domination. People that tell you that the best homework is to watch other films, not to look into yourself or the world around you, or books or paintings or philosophy or anything else that the world can offer you. Just watch other films and ape them and make it look really crisp. So seeing something as uniquely personal as this is really refreshing, even if I did think it was shit. I'm kidding. I didn't think it was shit, but I didn't enjoy it. So let me explain that. It still sounds bad. I think I've spoken before about how there are sort of films and filmmakers that sort of aim for the heart, like maybe Spielberg. And there were filmmakers who just aim for the head. So like a Kubrick film sort of feels cold to me, where like a Spielberg film is just really warm, but there's not a lot. Other than that, there's nothing to grab hold of or to think or to be stimulated. Kubrick films, they'll make you think, but they won't make you feel anything. And then there's the occasional filmmaker in between who can do both, who can juggle it, but they're few and far between. So this is a film that definitely aims for the head, and for that I found it a very intense watch. And it reminded me more of, like I've just said, about not just watching other films about things coming from literature. This film really reminded me of Ulysses. When I'm reading that, I'm thinking, where are we now? What are we jumping there? What's the connection? And just thinking really hard like that the whole way through. And it's not an enjoyable experience, as in entertaining, but it's stimulating. It also reminded me of this Robert Anton Wilson book, which I can't find the name of, and I'm now thinking that maybe I just dreamt it all. But it was every chapter. The chapter just has a number. It doesn't explain any of this, but all the chapters seem to be in a different timeline, with the same characters at different periods in their lives, and it doesn't explain it. You have to put it all together. So you're like, okay, so we're in the 40s now, and this guy's an actor, but in the next bit, he's a porn star in the 70s. So that must be two different timelines. So you have to put those together, and then you go on to the next chapter and think, that must be that one further up, and it's just mind-boggling. You're trying to create a world outside the world you're reading, inside the world that you're within. Leaves you sort of exhausted and frazzled, and that's how I felt for the first half of this film. But I think that was intentional. Because everything in it is in sort of extreme close-up or obscured in some way. But then in the second half, when it becomes someone else's perception, things open up a bit more, and you can breathe a bit more. You know, the mood changes, and we get to see a bit of York, which is nice. Which again reminds me of Robert Anton Wilson, because I saw an interview with him once where he was talking about when you walk into a room, there'll be items all over the room, and you will walk in, and depending on your history and your memory and how your mind works and how your mind's developed, you might walk in and notice a rubber duck in the corner, and that will be the first thing, and then you'll move around the room and you'll start putting those pieces together yourself. But any other person might walk in and notice the carpet first, because that might have some significance to them. Every person's interaction is completely different, and that's not really what mainstream cinema does. Mainstream cinema wants everything to be told in exactly the same way, but it's not how the world works. That's how marketing works.
Have a good day. I'll speak to you later. Bye.
So it has that sort of Rashomon structure to it. It makes sense to me, and it did put me in a specific mind place. So I'm definitely not saying the film wasn't effective at what it did, because it did make me feel... I don't know what I'm saying. Maybe I did feel something. Well, I definitely did feel something at the end, because there were some candid moments there that were sort of a breath of relief from all the intense concentration, and a lovely way to end the film. So yeah, a homemade film, a lot to unpack, a lot to think about. A bold, challenging directorial debut that you wouldn't really expect to come out of the sort of film system as it is today, because it refreshingly feels like a product of the world around it, not just of the world of film. The link isn't in the description yet because it's not on general release yet, but I'll put the trailer there, and when the film becomes available I will add it there. Please do check it out. If you do, tell them we sent you, and don't forget that indie means independent.